Hello and welcome to Kurtzman Publishing. My name is Vincent Gillen and this house story is about a building that sat at the edge of town and what would later become the Esplanade. A house that lived many lives. It began in 1837 as the Angus Mansion off Brougham Street, and over the next 135 years it was home to merchants, ship owners, sugar refiners, engineers, shipbuilders, artists, photographers, naval volunteers, scouts, cadets, soldiers and musicians. The building itself is gone now, but its name, Seafield, survives. This is the story of how one address came to hold so much of Greenock's history. This is a detail from the 1842 map which shows Seafield House at the Bay of Quick and Mr. Angus as the owner. You can see that the actual entrance is from Brougham Street with the carriageway coming in and round the house. Interestingly, right beside a shipyard, so not exactly a quiet residence, I don't think. This is Seafield House. It's a colorized version of a black and white image and shows just quite how grand it was. The house was built by Robert Angus in 1837. He and his brothers, John and Alexander, were ship owners and sugar refiners, typical of the Greenock merchants at this time. They traded through firms like Ewing, Angus and Company and Harm, Blanken and Company, who were German sugar boilers or sugar refiners. Their factory was originally where the Walker's refinery was on the Westburn. In the 1841 census, Robert is noted as living here with his wife, Jane Barclay. Jane was born in Greenock around 1796, and this was painted by the artist John Fleming. The couple raised 4 daughters and a son. The family's fortunes, however, turned. Robert was sequestrated, or declared bankrupt, in 1848. And by 1852 the house was put up for sale. At first it found no buyer. In 1852 Walter Grieve took it on as a tenant. He was a merchant tied to St. John's in Newfoundland and to the company Bain, Johnson and Company. Interestingly, the house along the street, Haywood, was owned by the founder of the company, Walter Bain. Grieve's career linked this house to transatlantic trade, to import-export and the seal fishery. And in Newfoundland he served as a magistrate and president of the Chamber of Commerce. His brother was J.J. Grieve, and he was again involved in the Newfoundland trade and became provost and MP for Greenock. This is a colorized image of the Bain Johnson premises in St. John's, Newfoundland. The company had been founded in 1800, round about then, and was concerned with the supply of cod and seal oil. In return, it exported from Britain all the goods that were necessary for life in Newfoundland. The next occupier of Seafield House was James Tennant Caird. Born in 1816, Caird became one of Greenock's most notable marine engineers at the heart of the town's shipbuilding industry. It was he who built an art gallery onto the side, and the Cairds later donated a collection of paintings to the Maclean Museum. Caird died suddenly on the Clough Road in 1888. In 1867 he had held a public sale of the household furniture and moved on to Greenock House. This is an image of the Caird shipyard in the glebe of Greenock, down where the current bingo hall and cinema is. On the left is the Old West Kirk. We'll hear about the Old West Kirk and Cairds later on in this talk. Looking through the old newspapers, there aren't that many mentions of Seafield House, but there is this one which mentions the Cairds entertaining the guests of a launch at Seafield House. Obviously, the house was used for to impress their clients. Perhaps come along and look at their art collection at the same time. As with all self-respecting gentlemen of the Victorian era, James T. Caird was part of the council elected to the First Ward in Greenock. This is a view of Seafield House, and you can see the gallery on the left. It's been colorized, and that process has allowed this image that was a faded telegraph image or photograph to come up to this, which gives details of the house and interestingly shows two boys playing cricket. Cricket was strangely a fascination with the landed or the ownerships of the large houses in Greenock, and they tended to sponsor cricket teams. So there would have been Seafield, James Morton obviously was connected with the football team. Bel Air all had were sponsors or names of cricket teams in Greenock. As mentioned earlier, the furniture of James Tennant Caird in the house was put up for sale in 1867 prior to his move to Greenock House. Not sure what's happening here, because why would you sell your furniture unless he was going to an already furnished house or just wanted brand new furniture? But anyway, it seemed to happen quite a lot that people just moved on and sold their furniture. And so after James Tennant Caird, the house was then taken by William Orr, who was a ship owner. He didn't stay there long. He moved to London and was successful there. And the following tenant was John Scott. He was born in 1830 in Greenock, engineer and shipbuilder, and head of the Scots firm from 1868. He pushed marine engineering forward, higher steam pressures, water tube boilers, naval construction, and he took Caird's art gallery and turned it into a library, one of the finest private libraries in Scotland, rich in Scottish, Stuart and naval collections. When he died and his collection was put up for sale, it took a complete day to go through the catalogue. Here is a lovely colorized view of John Scott in his library. The Scots, one of the, or if not the oldest shipbuilding company in the world at one point, had their original yard at the Westburn on the site of where Cairds was. They then moved to the Cartsburn, which is what we see here at Victoria Harbour. By the end of the 19th century and the death of John Scott, the house entered a new era where, rather than being a residential house, it became more of a community asset or a private asset for various functions, including artists, photographers, for at least 4 or 5 years before it was taken over by the railway company. In 1899, the artist William Adam moved in and used the picture gallery as a studio. Curiously, none of his biographies mention his brief time in Greenock at all. He was connected with the Glasgow, Boston and Lowell art clubs and painted portraits and planned classes in oil and watercolour. He seemed to have returned to America just shortly after his article in the newspapers. So I'm not sure what happened, but he spent the rest of his life in America. This is an example of his work, and as I said, this is the only reference that I could find to him actually taking over Seafield as a studio. From 1899 to 1902, the building served another new purpose entirely, as a photographic studio for Charles Dufour and Company. So in 60 years, the house had gone from a merchant's home to a gallery, a library, an artist's studio, and now a photographer's studio. In 1907, the house was bought by the Caledonian Railway, but it was then subsequently acquired by the Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve. This is where the Anson Battalion of the Royal Naval Division would be formed. By 1913, a year before the war, the local naval volunteers were being photographed as the Gun Team Wizards, young men with no idea of what was coming. This image is taken from the Telegraph, which was the original black and white drawing. The colorization process has turned it into this lovely representation, but it was going along with the headline of the Seafield being purchased by the government for the Royal Naval Volunteer Division. This is the picture referred to as the previously for the Gun Team Wizards of 1913. This used to be on TV back in the 70s and 80s. I think it was teams of our field artillery who would break down a gun, transfer it, and put it back together again as fast as they can. A highly dangerous process, and these guys were just amazingly fit and strong. Interesting just to think that 1 year later these guys were at war. This is a great photo of, as you see from the headline, some Seafield Canuts. A Canut apparently was an early 20th century term for lads about town. So this is from John Evans, whose father is on the middle row, third from the left. John Evans went on to win a medal for bravery at Gallipoli. and had been an apprentice joiner at Cairds. On the 5th of August 1914, at the outbreak of war, the local Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve reported for duty at Seafield House. Now, Britain had more sailors than ships, so Churchill formed the Royal Naval Division, or Winston's Little Army, to serve as a land-based infantry. Known locally as the Seafield Lads, they were sent south to train within days of the opening of the war, at first with outdated rifles and almost no kit. By October, they were helping to defend Antwerp, the first local units to see major action. Most of them served in the Anson Battalion, which reached the Dardanelles by March 1915. At the Gallipoli landings on the 25th of April, Greenock's own Peter McCurdy led reserve platoons at W Beach. Within a month, the division's strength had halved through wounds and disease. After the evacuation, they moved to the Somme, advancing along the River Ancre to capture Beaucourt. The cost was heavy. 33 local Royal Naval Division men died at Gallipoli, and 30 more in France. These were shop workers and shipyard men from Greenock and Inverclyde, and this house was where their war began. Here are a couple of adverts from the local newspapers for recruits for the Royal Naval Division for service at the front. Apply to Seafield. Minimum height 5 foot 6 inches, chest 36 inches. Here are a few slides showing the contribution or the role that the RNVR and the Royal Naval Division played in the war. The picture on the right is a wonderful image, I think, at Dunoon, of the Seafield lads in their full uniform. This is a pre-war image, colorized of course, of the gun carriages at Seafield and part of their training. In the background you can see Princess Pier Station, or as we know it now, the container terminal or ocean terminal. As the first unit, local unit to go to war, we see a lot of newspaper articles about them. This is a poem or a song to the tune of Tipperary. I will not be singing this, but please feel free to sing along. The consequences of war. This was a notice put in the newspaper at the end of the war, just to commemorate those who lost their lives. Lieutenant Commander McCurdy, Lieutenant W.F. Brown, 2 petty officers, 3 leading seamen, 10 able seamen, and 9 lost on board HMS Victor. Peter McCurdy lost his twin brother as well at Gallipoli. Another lovely photograph of the lads, the Seafield lads in front of Seafield House, in full uniform with the band. Again, if you look at their faces and just think what each one did during the following 4 years, what they went through, it's quite sobering, really. After the war, the site changed again. Harland and Wolff bought Caird Shipyard, and part of the Seafield land was used to rebuild the old West Kirk, moved here stone by stone. New halls went up too, where the scouts met and where the community gathered for events. The incongruous sight of the Old West sitting right beside Cairds shipyard. With a view to expansion after the war, as I said, the church was moved to the Seafield site. Unfortunately, Cairds, or Harland and Wolff as it became, was not a success, so the move in effect was for no real purpose. Here's a Telegraph article just saying that the house had been bought by Harland and Wolff and that some 70 workers were now being accommodated there. This is a colorized view of Seafield House taken at the time of the Old West Kirk being reconstructed at the site. There's no details with this photograph, but I think we could guess that it's the official opening of the Old West Kirk after its removal. Equally, it could be a funeral or some other service, but I'm going with the official opening of the Old West. Again, an image of the drill hall that was at the rear of Seafield House, and which was the location for many events over the years. And so the house entered yet another life, this time as a home for youth and music. In 1928, it became headquarters for the Boy Scouts, and a name connected with this was Hector Russell, with its own scout shop. Many of you will remember Hector Russell kilt shop in town. He was heavily involved with the Scouts. During the Second World War, it was used by the ATC, and in 1955 it became headquarters of the 402 Anti-Tank Regiment. By 1965 it was echoing to a different sound entirely. The practice rooms of the Buckeridge Orchestra. Scouts, cadets, soldiers and musicians, all under one roof, one after another. Here we have a colorized aerial view showing the location of the house, the drill hall, and the Old West Kirk. I've included this lovely image of the local scouts taken in 1929. It's been colorized, so I'm not convinced with the color of the hats, but never mind. I'm not sure where this is actually. I'm sure someone will be able to tell me. By the 1930s, the Seafield House and the halls were used for a variety of purposes. One was as a practice room or practice rooms for the Frank Buckeridge Orchestra. Frank had originally come up from London as part of the Woolwichers who worked at the Royal Naval Torpedo Factory. My grandfather was in the orchestra, well, not in the orchestra, was in the choir at the Royal Naval Torpedo Factory, and I'm pretty sure he would have known Frank. And so, post-war in Greenock, it was an interesting time in that many of the old houses and buildings were demolished to make way for housing complexes. So Seafield was removed in 1972, and I'm thinking of Stoneleigh and Drumsleigh and the Craigs on Newark Street. All the big old houses, or many of the big old houses, Balclutha, all demolished to make way for a school and housing. Also, the complete change to the Greenock town centre. So yes, it was a time of change. Maybe not for the best, but it was a time of change. This is the bigger picture from the previous slide, which shows the site of Seafield House after demolition in 1972 and where the new housing complex was built. This is the current Google Maps view of Seafield. It shows the house, no longer there, obviously, and the Old West Kirk. The Old West Kirk itself has undergone a bit of a change in the last few years. No longer in use as a church, and now a privately run community centre, if you like, or an art centre. Thank you for watching and for taking an interest in the story of Seafield House. Every view, every share and every conversation helps keep our local history alive. I'm grateful for your time, and on behalf of Kirkburn Publishing, thank you for being part of this journey.